Outreach Philippines has been engaged in community development for more than 3 decades. It utilizes the participatory human development or PhD methodology as written by Eduardo Delfin in 1986, which is an adaptation of Saul Alinsky's community organizing approach. The PhD methodology has 4 goals: empowerment, issue resolution, establishment of projects, and formation of groups or organizations. OPI has 2 major implementation strategies. One is the assigning of a professional development facilitator in a poor community who utilizes different communication strategies to transform passive residents into actors of their own development. The second strategy is the spreading outreach, or SPROUT, or provision of financial and mentoring support to mature community organizations whose leaders are assigned to other communities to share their knowledge they have learned from their experiences. One thing that makes PhD methodology different is the use of communication strategies by the development facilitator to make the people collectively act on their issues without giving promises of projects or any material inputs. A theory in the PhD methodology is that praxis is the key to people's psychological empowerment so that they sustainably engage in collective actions to resolve their own poverty issues. However, encouraging the majority in the community to participate in a collective problem solving is not that easy. This is because in poor communities, the people are normally passive, non-communicative, and are not willing to work with others in resolving community issues. Many of them have given up hope on the idea of collective problem-solving process and would simply wait for the government or external institutions to solve their problems for them. Sometimes waiting works, but in many instances it doesn't. Therefore, there is a need for intervention from a development facilitator that utilizes communication strategies to achieve collective participation. There are 3 communication strategies used by a development facilitator. Our assumption is that the use of agitation communication strategy, which targets people's emotions, has the highest effect on raising participation level, and that linear communication strategy has the lowest effect on raising participation level. However, through the years, we have not established empirical data to support these claims. One problem of the PhD methodology is the costly strategy of assigning professional development worker or development communicator to work in only one community. This had been the idea behind SPROUT. We don't expect results from SPROUT as much as we expect from the regular program, particularly in achieving the psychological empowerment goal. This is because our assumption is that assigning a professional development worker in a community has higher effect on raising level of consciousness than assigning a trained leader. But it is something that still needs to be proven. These 2 research problem areas led me to the idea of conducting my own field research. My plan is to conduct field research in 3 communities. 1 regular PhD program community with a professional HDF assigned, and 2 SPROUT communities with trained leaders assigned to work as development facilitator. This research will be important for Outreach Philippines in its efforts for continued evolution of the PhD methodology and for further development of its monitoring and evaluation system. It will also be important to other NGOs and institutions that are looking for different development methodologies and strategies. I have searched from many research articles published online. I have come across with 2 research articles. The first I reviewed a thesis dissertation of Eric A. Tesdal of Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. I have focused my review on the study 1 of the article, which dealt with 3 research questions. Question number 1. What is the effect of one-to-one meetings conducted within a group over a given period of time on that group's level of participation? Number 2. What role do the various free spaces or behavior settings created within the typical CDC or organizing process play with respect to group levels of participation per unit time? And 3. What effect does spatial dispersion of organizational membership have on participation rates at the group level. In conclusion, TESDAL suggested that whether considering participation from the perspective of unique persons attending organizing meetings or the perspective of total instances of participation, the overall number of one-to-one meetings within a given organizing group. The second literature I reviewed is entitled Factors Affecting People's Participation in Community Development in Sub-District Administration Organization by Tawisel Kolnafadol of Thailand. In his study with 100 people belonging to the accepted successful sub-district administration organization of Chachoengsao province and 100 people from the normal sub-district administration organization, Kolnafadol aimed to study the factors that influence people's participation in the community development. Kolnafadol specifically mentioned that one important factor that affects people's participation is communication. Kolnafadol concluded that there is significant difference in all factors influencing people's participation in community development between successful and unsuccessful local administration organizations, with communication leadership having the highest meaning. He suggested that one of the important issues for developing people's participation to let the people play an important role in local organizations, administration, and management is developing information perception of the people in the community. TESDAL and Kolnafadol answered many of my questions on what factors affect people's participation. Based on my own experience in working with outreach, I couldn't agree more that participation is very important to initiate and sustain community development efforts. As I said earlier though, encouraging people to participate is not that easy. In my experience as accountant focused on managing community groups and community projects, the greatest challenge has been how to sustain participation in all aspects, such as attendance to activities, contributing resources, performing responsibilities, paying loans, and other forms of participation. While TESDAL mentioned the significant impact of one-to-one meetings to participation, and Kolnafadol emphasized the great contribution of communication in the community to influencing people's participation, they did not mention any styles or strategies of communication used in one-to-one meetings or activities and how they differ in terms of effects to people's participation. This led me to the first research question. What are the effects of the different community communication strategies in sustaining people's active participation? Based on the experiences of outreach, we have ideas on the effects of different communication strategies in encouraging and sustaining people's participation, but we don't have data to support the following hypotheses. Hypothesis 1A, linear communication has low effect on people's level of participation in community development activities. Hypothesis 1B, two-way or interpersonal communication has higher effect than the linear communication on people's level of participation in community development activities. And hypothesis 1C, two-way communication strategy that uses agitation or groundworking has the highest effect on people's active participation in community development activities. The second question is, can leaders whose level of consciousness was raised through the PhD process effectively share their experiences in participatory development process to other communities and create outcomes similar with what a professional development worker can? The proposed research to be conducted in 3 communities, one with the presence of a professional development worker and 2 with trained local leaders, will aim to compare the outputs and outcomes within a 6-month time period and to determine whether the following hypotheses are supported. Hypothesis 2A, the presence of an ordinary community leader has lower effect on people's participation in community development activities compared to the presence of a professional development worker. Hypothesis 2B is program or PhD program facilitated by the trained local leader has lower positive effect on people's levels of consciousness than the regular PhD program facilitated by a professional HDF. The research will be conducted in 3 different communities from June 1 to November 30, 2019. One community, Community A, will be under the regular PhD program, where a professional development worker or facilitator will be assigned. The 2 other communities will be under the Sprout program of OPI. Two community leaders with years of experience in the participatory human development process from a previous program community of OPI will work as the local development facilitators in its Sprout communities. Data will be collected from the three communities in 6-month time period to determine the effects of different communication strategies employed by the local development facilitator. For Community A, the local facilitator will use agitational communication strategy in one-to-one meetings. The development facilitator will devote longer time for one-to-one meetings with Community A. The development facilitator will devote longer time for one-to-one meetings with Community A participants to encourage them to participate in the collective actions. For Community B, the local development facilitator will also use two-way communication, but not using same agitational tactics as the facilitator in Community A. The development facilitator will personally inform Community B participants about the community activities and invite them to participate in the collective action. For Community C, the local development facilitator will use linear communication strategies. Posters and letters will be disseminated to Community C participants for them to know their community activities, the reasons for them to attend, and the schedule of the activities. The development worker in Community C will also be engaged in interpersonal communication with key community leaders. Interpersonal communications in Community C will also be documented. Number of one-to-one meetings, small group discussions, and number of messages such as invitation to join activities sent will be recorded. The number of unique participants' participation and frequency of individual participation will be recorded during the community activities within the 6 months period. Survey and interviews will be conducted to measure the qualitative effects of different communication strategies employed in encouraging people's participation in community activities. The total budgetary requirement for the project, including research-related expenses, is 397,400 pesos. The compensation and allowance of each DF is an existing item in Outreach Philippines funded by Outreach International. The compensation and allowance for local facilitators will be proposed to Outreach International by the home community group of the local facilitator. Expenses to be funded from my personal money are just additional to my business expense allowance from Outreach International funding. The output of this research will be submitted to UPOU and Outreach Philippines. Thank you.